Good morning, LinkedIn. Happy Monday. This is Let's Build Daily. I'm your host, Chris Carolan. I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. I know I did. I got a lot of sleep, which is usually a good thing. Hard to come by during the week. Excited to have a round two today regarding the HubSpot navigation. A hot topic. And rightfully so, I think, because how everything that a full customer platform can do, like HubSpot, and how it's presented by HubSpot and by partners, and how everybody aligns on what you should lead with and what should be highlighted, and why aren't we highlighting this thing? Why is this thing buried? All that is a healthy conversation, I think, and one that's going to continue for the foreseeable future as HubSpot kind of bolts forward with the product. So yesterday, Max Cohen posted about an ideal navigation world that he has seen for a while. And see if I can make this a little bit bigger. So given all the chatter about the new HubSpot navigation, I figured I'd share my dream parent-child menu organization plus my mental model that I threw together back when this was just a private beta. Updated with the bajillion new tools that came out since, and having some time fumbling around the new nav. If I could snap my little fingies and get the nav organization I want, it would be this. What changes would you propose to HubSpot's new nav? I'm seeing a lot of general negative feedback here instead of specific constructive feedback. I will say, I think the new nav design is beautiful. Agreed. However, there is a ton of opportunity to illustrate a full story of what HubSpot can really do and how all of these damn features work together. And yes, some things show up twice. That was very intentional. Also, guys, if you don't like the new nav, remember the best HubSpot nav is a well-organized Chrome Bookmarks bar folder. Well said. Some things to highlight just off the top is the negative feedback just isn't I don't think anybody should shy away from sharing feedback. But when it's negative with no suggestions for what could be better other than I want the old one back, it's not a productive, it doesn't add to productive conversation. And Slee mentions that, Max has been sitting on this one for a while. I can imagine, and like who better than somebody who's been on sales and success side of the fence working with HubSpot and now an app partner at Happily. Like he's definitely going to be looking at this from all angles, and I appreciate a lot of what he's done here because it brings up some things I wasn't thinking about either, right? And I think this is how, like, if you're not a huge fan of the feedback, like, don't just say that and ask for the old thing. Maybe embrace some change a little bit and help the ecosystem change with it. One of the main things I've learned as a HubSpot partner is that they listen. They listen to little people like me. They listen to big agencies. They listen to, end user customers. It's just hard for them to act on things like, I want the old one back, right? They actually can't act on that. the best they can do is console you and tell you that they're going to be there for you when the inevitable change happens, which is now 8 days away, I think, May 28th. Good job scheduling that on is that on a holiday? Almost on a holiday? Anyways. But the other 2 points is we do have to get better at telling the full story of what HubSpot can really do, which is where some of my beef comes in, that we'll get to. And also developing, I think, navigations, whether it be for a website or a software, has to be one of the most challenging things to design for. Like when you know that there are ways, like Max suggests here, a well-organized Chrome bookmarks bar, and search, right? Like 90+% of users, at least on websites, I don't know what the percentages in the software, rely on search to get to where they need to go to find the information they need. So you've got super users who have the bookmarks, set up, whether it be just the browser, built-in bookmarks functionality, or I like, Toby is a cool, tab organizer tool that George B. Thomas turned me on earlier this year. So your super users have bypassed whatever navigation is set up. And the non-super users are likely using search as a way to find what they need and get around the platform. So nailing down the audience of who we're designing for here is an interesting one at that. And Slee makes another good point. And I noticed this as I was preparing for today, because I've got a free portal that I'm going to show you and how different the nav is. And when there's some structural considerations, when there's a PLG, motion to be supported, and you can't tell the entire story in the free portals because stuff is actually not turned on. You don't want them misclicking. Like all the paths towards upgrade, might not make sense. All that stuff is behind the scenes here, which I think ultimately gets us to the customizable nav at some point. I'm sure it's just as, an internal functionality, structural hurdle at this point. But also this kind of delivery of this change helps them immensely. And again, your constructive feedback drives this train to what needs to be customizable. How does the customizability need to be set up in the future should we ever experience that? And as far as whole story goes, I'm a big advocate of customer platform and everything that means, going beyond marketing emails and, deals focus. Just know that what we're seeing is still a vastly superior experience to what we're up against. And I don't want us to take that for granted, but I also want us to know that when you start hating on the navigation, while taking the HubSpot experience for granted, you're missing an opportunity to leverage it as another piece of the experience. Because I noticed, again, in preparation for this little Intuit MailChimp, right? Little ad right here, now with SMS, right? So HubSpot as a customer platform, maybe the first true version of it something that can give you like the closest thing to a 360-degree view of the customer you've ever experienced, a, a full one, if connected to the right, ERP or accounting system, in a manageable, maintainable, great user experience way, more so than ever before, because everybody else out there is doing this. So this is Intuit, owner of QuickBooks Online. They purchased MailChimp, right? You've got Salesforce for their well-known cobbled stack, the NetSuites of the world, not developing all their own functionality as they bring it in, right? So this is what we're up against, and why it's important to tell the full story, and to get help from HubSpot as we do that. So even though we've got some more story to tell with the new Nav, I think it's still a better story to tell than what else is available to customers out there, especially for people. There's two groups of people that I think we need to be targeting, and that's people that have never been on HubSpot before, but have heard some kind of narrative that is too expensive or too complex, or my business isn't ready for it, or whatever. Or they have fully invested in Marketing Hub and don't realize that in some cases they already have access to a very powerful tool set like the one in Commerce Hub. Because prior to now, it was buried in the sales drop down, and I didn't have a reason to click on sales because I'm focused on Marketing Hub. Or have like a homegrown CRM or some other system that's not doing the job it needs to be doing, and they don't really understand how HubSpot can help them beyond Marketing Hub, because that is the DNA of the ecosystem right now, and we've got to grow out of that. So I'm so fervent about, like, can we stop leading with email, right? Like, there's just so many other tools on the market. Email is like, there's just lots of other value that people can be getting from HubSpot. And if we lead with email, we like continue the narrative of, for some people thinking HubSpot is just an emailing tool. So before we jump in to Max's version, just a quick reminder of, what the current version has here. So Never Stop Teaching is a free portal. So this is not a development portal. This is not a demo portal. This is a free portal, and haven't started a lot in it. So we've got workspaces, prospecting. This is a place where you also see customer success and help desk if you've turned it on. Note, I didn't turn anything on to see prospecting tab right away, right? CRM, I don't see any custom objects. I see lists, inbox, calls, tasks. Marketing, I only see campaigns, emails, social, ads, forms. Content, I see all the upgrades, which is honestly like, I appreciate, like, a lot of the marketing stuff has been developed forever and has been brought down to the free level because it's so developed and so well known, and there's such a field of competition at much better pricing that they have to bring this functionality down, and that's why they did, right? But none of that stuff works if you don't have your content point, if you don't have your content game on point, right? So if you're starting with free, this is arguably one of the first places you should upgrade, right? Because like automation, like all that nice stuff doesn't matter if you don't have good things to say to the person you're trying to communicate with. Email blasts are a thing of the present, unfortunately, but over and over they are proven to be less and less effective. And we need to get better at content. But it doesn't come for free, right? Not at least yet. As AI empowered tools and all this stuff continues to be democratized and capitalized on, the cost of these tools will continue to go down, and they will become available possibly at some point, some of them, at lower levels. Commerce, again, we are in free, and none of these, of course, there are limitations to how much and when and how automated you can get, but none of these are off limits to a free portal. And this is why I say breaking this out is so important. Like, now, while there's something to be said of like, okay, where are sales now, right? We got this workspace, right? Breaking out commerce as a function of not only separating it from Sales Hub and the sales management and deal management that teams are used to doing, but highlighting it as its own thing, that these can happen without sales. There's transactional support here that we need to find a way to highlight that companies are missing in their own portals that they already have. There are huge customer experience gains to be made by understanding what's here, right? Payment links for one, in terms of helping a customer who already has bought from before buy easier from you. If they want credit card or bank transfer, they can do it in 2 minutes. And they do not need to fill out paperwork, send it back and forth via email, give you a call for the credit card number. Like, it's crazy what we're still having to do in 2024. And Payment Links is already available to you at a free level of HubSpot, which means no other hub needs to be upgraded, right? And what it does mean is using HubSpot or Stripe as a payment, channel that's probably new for your organization. But when we talk about what the current process looks like, and that process that I just described that can take days when it should take minutes, because we're using email to transact and we're using PDFs that need to be scanned in, you can make the case from the customer perspective and from the sales and service team perspective, how much time could we be saving? And can we just add 5 minutes, 10 minutes onto the accounting team's time at the end of the month to reconcile? We're not asking everybody to change accounting processes to HubSpot and Stripe, but I think we can take these 10, 20 transactions, which is where you start, and reconcile them at the end of the month with the other stuff. I digress on my most passionate area of the HubSpot right now, which is where the beef is. I will be damned to let Max throw it back into a group with sales, which we will see in a moment. Automation. This is the easiest one to break out. Probably the best change, I think, from the old Nav is, these two were together, not always, but recently. And then chat flows was in a separate drop down and surveys were in a separate drop down. Reporting and data, looking good, looking very similar to, I think what Max has. And this is where, like, I agree with, let's just get into it after we look at library. And this is another piece of, like, not everything is available to you. So you notice in a free portal, and I discovered this, files is not accessible. And when you think about it, do we want all of our free portals to be just importing all of their files and just bulking up the system for free? Probably not. Does it stop you from uploading stuff onto a website page and using the file mechanism? No, it does not. But you cannot, bulk manage files like you can in the paid portals. So, uh, so let's look at Max's, because I love his commentary as well. I think like if we could all get in the habit of kind of sharing this narrative of what we are thinking when we suggest this stuff, like a mini user story, uh, it goes a long way, right? Especially when you're trying to explain something complex like in navigation and why it's changing. So we have dashboards, and just one moment. So we have dashboards. The UI is HubSpot's cockpit. You got to be able to see the dashboard. CRM, all of your stuff and the relationships you manage. Stuff for sure. I'm such a big fan of moving all objects into the same place. Makes things a lot easier. Productivity tools. This is where like classifying, the list of top menu items gets interesting as far as what it is versus like what it helps with versus functions in the organization, right? Who are we actually serving with this, and what questions are they going to be asking as they look at the nav? Productivity tools, everything that supercharges the way you manage those relationships. Marketing, how you reach out into the world and attract, engage back to your website. Content, the website and content you are attracting people to and engaging them with. Again, you can't really have this. It's a lot harder and a lot more ineffective if you don't have this. Love this change to Content Hub. Sales and commerce, everything you need to sell to these people. I'll get to that. Everything you need to keep them happy. Automations, everything you need to automate the above. Is it all working good? How's that data looking in reporting and data? Let's get to the meat of it. All right, dashboards, fairly straightforward. Contacts, who you work with, companies, where, deals, what are they buying, tickets, how are you helping, custom objects, everything else. Lists, organize it. Contact analytics, what are they because that's, having some quick links to that, I think is helpful at the top level. CRM development, love calling this out here next to CRM. And I'm just going to go real quick just to, let's see here. Let's look at delivered. And we've got, right, so CRM. So what has he removed? So removed is inbox calls and tasks, right? I think it's fair when you focus this on the objects and their data. And I'm for it. Because he brings it over into productivity tools. I do like the idea of like a tool set area. Because when we want to do the thing, we're often looking for the thing and we don't look to do it through an object type or a different, mechanism in the system. So having the tool set in one place, I think makes sense. And there's probably it's probably harder to do better than productivity tools as far as how they're labeled. But that's essentially, what they're about. So we've got inbox, tasks, calls, meetings, snippets, templates, sequences, documents, bringing sequences out of the automation area. I think relates to like, actually I won't really need to go into detail there, but something to note. Documents, playbooks, coaching playlist, sales content analytics. So how's all this stuff doing? Why don't we call it productivity tools analytics and not like, we get it. We're all working for sales. Got it. Please stop reminding us. It promotes all the worst behavior. Sorry for that tangent. Marketing. If this is still a thing, put it here. So I like the marketing, the dashboarding kind of within each tool set. So it's like there's a commerce version, there's a marketing version. I like that approach as a way to maybe bring some of the default or recommended dashboards into their own place so that they can be used more effectively and maybe, less messed with. Because like one of the most common things you might see right away is like, I need this report, I need that report, and just a report overload. Maybe delivering it via these home pages can help avoid that. Then we have all of our channels, so ads, social, contact lists, marketing email, SMS, events. Yes, there is stuff like this that we can bring to a better level or a more visible. But I think, and this is like no inside information, but as Lee mentioned earlier, public traded company, maybe we don't highlight things that, might let people down as they click on them and understand, what they do. Maybe we let it breathe a little bit on the inside. Maybe we get better at it as a company before we bring it to the big show, which is this top nav front and center. I don't know if that's why they might bury these things, but I've heard of worse reasons to not show them. There's one later on that I will make the same case for. Then we have campaigns and campaign analytics, traffic analytics. Yep, got to have those reports. And no, this is not a live nav that I can click on, apparently. Good work on Max's part, making me feel like I could do so. Content, all of it. I do love bring in CTAs and forms, having it in here. I think like right now, they're in their stayed in marketing, and while it's important to that mechanism, like it's still content, especially when you get into like, once we get into multi-step forms and stuff like that. You can't just throw forms up on a page. Like you got to think about what they look like, what the experience is, what the message is, how form fields are named. Can they be a drop down with 100 things in it and you expect somebody to go through? No, it's another form of content that we need to treat as such. So I love the idea of bringing that into here. Your chat flows and AI chatbot, similar thing, content delivery mechanism that you need to manage the experience of the content, whether it's created by yourself or whether the AI is serving it up. Remix, SEO, embeds, podcast, videos. Videos is the other place where if you decide to listen to all the suggestions that this is the year of video, and then you invest in video, and then if you're unprofessional, you hit the 50 video cap, you have a sad day. So I feel like, again, no inside information here. I feel like content remix and what it's doing and the forward movement we're seeing towards content overall and the infrastructure required to support that, if they want video involved in the remix at all, that means hosting and the infrastructure needs to get better at video. And I think that's when we might see video on the top menu. Then we've got Files, Design Manager, and HubDB. Sales and commerce, no. Fought too long and hard to get this stuff out of the hands of sales, right? And at the top level, he said everything you need to do sales, to sell to people. Sales does not need invoices, right? They don't need to be in charge of the products, nor should they be in many cases, nor are they. They might want to be. But you know what ends up happening? Custom line items all the time. I won't get into it. No, I gotta have some separation here. I can transact with the customer without doing any sales work. Okay. So we can have some separation. And again, Commerce Hub, like what we're doing here is feeding the weak point of the ecosystem. Commerce Hub and Success are like the most poorly understood strategically by the ecosystem right now, and they're not talked about enough. So people have been executing poorly for years inside of HubSpot, most of the time because they have nowhere else to go. So it's not like they're using other systems to great success, but we get them out of those systems faster if we can start highlighting this stuff easier. And just when you start to label stuff as sales and marketing, like, believe me, every organization will have its own connotation of what those mean, but they will have some connotation that they will add. There will be some filter lens that they see those things through when you label them as such. So we need to get real, especially when we know we're competing with other full-body platforms like QuickBooks, like I talked earlier. the Salesforce instances of the world that are cobbled up to hell, but hey, they've got it. HubSpot doesn't. No, HubSpot does now, right? That doesn't mean it does it all. It just means we can connect with your system, get the HubSpot team, the customer facing team, the data that they need in a way that we couldn't before. And it's harder and harder to say that the data can't and shouldn't live over here. Now that there's these places for it to live. Does it mean executing everything underneath? No. But let's do better at integrating ERPs and accounting. Customer service, again, I think one of the hardest distinctions to make for an organization, and it's rare outside of SaaS to see it made, is that customer service is a reactive activity. That's what help desk is. Fundamentally different from customer success, which needs to be 100% proactive. Because if you're making sure they're successful, you are not waiting for them to call you with a problem. When you put these things together, you give license to focus on this thing. Customer success becomes a nice to have. Help desk runs the show because that is driving everyday activity. So no, I'm not putting these together. Again, knowledge base is content. So do we really want to take it out of here? Tickets. It's an object still. I don't know if I want to separate it. Customer portal. I mean, honestly, HubSpot is not checking off this box right now. It's creating a lot of confusion. Everybody wants to see, like, most people do not see this as just a place to look for tickets. That's a different show though. Surveys, I would bring it here, but I like it, in the content spot, and just to make sure he didn't have it here, right? It's one of those things that could live in both places, I think. And then analytics, right? And no, I cannot click on this nav. So obviously I've been using this nav a while. I built up the habit of clicking on these things. You can too. Automation. I love this concept. I'm not a huge, workflows guy myself, but it makes sense to me. He's laying it down. So I'm going to take his word for it as a HubSpot expert that this would be a good idea. And then reporting and data. Bring some of the stuff high level, I think, is a good plan. And I think most of it already exists. So I love the concept here. But again, like, where do we put orders? I guess you'd put them in sales and commerce, but it's the success team that's going to have to make sure they're fulfilled and managed. So now they're having to, straddle these two spots, and orders are a real object as far as being able to manage a container of data you want to refer to as an order in HubSpot with or without an integration. So that's coming. But again, I think all this speaks to how hard it is to make people happy with a global asset like the navigation. And hopefully, someday soon, for rumors, nothing more, that we can get to customizability. But I'll just note with that customizability, we lose standardization just right out of the gate. And it's going to get harder to help people. It's going to force screen sharing. Hopefully we all get better at that, screen sharing and screenshotting. But if there's people with different custom navs out there, it gets harder and harder to walk them through the process to come in portal and know that there's only a certain way they can do something, right? So pluses and minus, folks. Love what Max brings to the conversation here. Again, take some notes. Like, if you want things to be different, don't just hearken for the past. You're not going to get what you want. You're just not, right? Come at it with some constructive feedback, like Max is suggesting here, and find that opportunity. And let's grow, people. Have a great day and a great week.